I have never been so happy to hear that intro music. We're back.
Woo!
Yeah, so Aucademy is back. This is our first live in a long time, and I think we're all really excited to be here. We're going to start with some physical descriptions. So I'm David Gray Hammond. I am a white Mediterranean male in his mid-30s. I have a lip piercing, an ear tunnel, and sort of thick-rimmed purpley grey glasses. I'm sat next to the famously rickety bookcase in a very blue room with a massive earth just off the screen. Tigger.
Hi, I'm Tigger Pritchard. I am this sounds terrible, a awesome individual who is late 50s, white, shaven head, stubble, looking a bit worse for wear this evening. And I'm in my Auti den, which is my name for what people would call a man cave or something. It's not a man cave, it's my Auti den. There's a bit of a silver ceiling. The rest of it is lovely wood with my gorgeous autistic passions kind of around this environment.
I love that so much. That's so good. Okay, hi folks. My name is Jaesic. I use they and it pronouns. I am a white individual, almost 30. I'll be 30 in January. Oh boy. Never thought I'd make it. Oh man. And I have bleach blonde hair on top, shaved sides. I'm wearing a blue zip-up hoodie and a white undershirt. And behind me is a very plain wall and some windows. Very plain. It's just a plain. I was gonna say plain Jane because that rhymes, but I'm not a Jane, so I don't know. Anybody can be a plain Jane, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Bobbi.
that's me. I'm Bobbi. Yeah.
Hello. So I'm Bobbi. I use she, they. I am a very white female presenting person with kind of cherry red hair. Wearing a black top with straps in my bedroom, which is blurred out. If you see a black blob moving around, that would be my cat Pepsi. Oh, and I also have dark rimmed glasses.
Excellent. And actually, I forgot to mention, I'm wearing a T-shirt which has my logo on it because I have a merchandise store now, and this T-shirt might be available on it soon. There you go. It's my quick plug. So yeah, Aucademy Lives are back. We're really excited about it. They're not going to be as frequent as they used to be, but we're going to be doing them on the first Wednesday of each month. So keep your eye out for those Facebook events. Keep your eye on the Aucademy social medias, because we will no doubt announce the lives before they happen, because otherwise no one's going to know they're happening. And so, yeah, you know, we are back. I can't stop saying it. I'm so happy. Anyway, today we have a question for us all to answer, which is, what does being autistic mean to you? So, what does being autistic mean to us? Shall I go first?
I was going to say, who goes?
I mean, for me, like, being autistic, it's like, people say, oh, it's a diagnosis, it's a label, but for me, it's an entire culture. It's shared experience in a dynamic way, because we all have our own individual experiences that differ from one another, but we have that overarching shared experience that creates our culture, our language, our community. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things about being autistic and having access to the autistic community, is that whilst we can all be individuals, we also have that shared experience, and it's very affirming.
Absolutely. For me, it's I guess because I'm quite late diagnosed, mid-50s, and all my life it was anything I was, and anytime I showed my authentic self, it was wrong. It was weird. It was too different. It was frowned upon. And finally, I was saying before we even went live, that the sort of imposter syndrome is gone. And I actually feel more my authentic self in the community, mixing with my Norican, like tonight with all of you. You know, I can't. It's like an exhale. I feel so much more comfortable. So being autistic to me is kind of me. I can't take it off. I can't remove it. But it's a coming home, because for so long it was pushed down, and I masked absolutely my entire life, consciously and unconsciously. So right now, being autistic is almost an exhale, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I like what you were saying about it being you, because one of the things I've often said is that, like, people would be like, what's it like to be autistic? And I'm like, I don't really know how to actually answer that, because I've got no point of reference to anything else. Like, I am autistic. I have never not been autistic. So all I can tell you is what my life is like. Like, I can't tell you if that is specifically autism, because autism isn't like a physical object that I carry around with me. It is me. Like, Tigger, do you want to add anything? Oh, Jaesic, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, this is so one of my favorite phrases that I'm actually thinking of developing into something is, "You're just so human." I can't tell you how many times in my life, and not every time has been like a condescending remark. Like sometimes it's in awe, honestly. Like people marvel at how I am human. And to me, a lot of the time when I receive that, that's more of a reflection on where those people are in their journey of self-discovery and acceptance. And like, if you're seeing me being human when I'm making mistakes, I have flaws, I have quirks, and I'm just unapologetically existing in my weirdness and loving life and loving myself, which for a long time, people calling me human, I wasn't in that state of mind yet. But now when it happens, like it happened as recently as technically 2 months ago now, June, the end of June. So like now when I receive that comment, I'm like, yeah, and aren't you? Like, so, but to me, it is when I hear that, it is kind of a reflection also on, I think, me being autistic, because I am different. And people see that difference as something to marvel at, or maybe be condescending towards, but it really is like how I am different. They're acknowledging how I am different, and to them, that means like extra human, where they're denying themselves the autonomy of having their flaws and loving themselves through that. And it's this weird place, like this weird, I don't know, existence to have, where I understand who I am finally. And like Bobbi was talking about with imposter syndrome, like I've pretty much let that go. I haven't gotten a formal diagnosis, but it's been 3 years now since I started exploring autism for myself. And I truly am at a point like, no, this is me. I've been this way my whole life. I still get stuck in situations because I'm this way my whole life. And it's like I've learned a lot of coping skills and strategies to navigate the world, but it's, you know, we're still different. We're still different. So when I get the remark, "You're just so human," like, I'm like, thanks. I know. And I'm like barely human. I don't even identify that way sometimes. It's like, aren't we all? Aren't we all?
I have to say, Jason, since the last time I spoke to you, I have been using the barely human thing a lot. Like,
Yeah.
human, but barely.
I love that. One of us.
Yeah. Tigger, do you have anything to add?
Bobbi, your bit about exhaling, about that at last is perfectionly beautiful. And I think for me, it's authenticity. It's being me. Tribe, neurokin, you, the community way down in Cornwall where I am at this moment in time. Everything is so intrinsically important. But it was I was on a live with David. Was it last week? And Tanya was on, and most of you I'm sure will know. And I mentioned about the fact that I am approaching 60. I know you don't believe it, but I am. I feel it some days. But I still feel so young as an autistic individual. And Tanya coined the phrase "baby autistic." Yeah, and I love that. And I want to get the T-shirt with "baby autistic" on it because there's so much to learn. There's so much to explore. I've got great neurokin down here. I've got great neurokin there in front of me, and I'm learning all the time. But for me, it's that reality of being at last, after decades of beginning to actually realize and know who I am, and that exhale of that just bit where I can be with people and I can do, and that's it. It's me. I can do my stims, my little routines, the things that I need and love, info dump, and it's just that being, I used to say awesomely autistic, but it's being me at last, which is so important. And finding my neurokin has been the best thing ever for me personally.
I find one of the problems for me though is I spend so much time interacting with autistic people that I step out into the real world and I'm like, everyone here is so strange. Like I'm like, how have they not realized how strange they are? Yeah.
It's surreal, right? Like it's surreal for me. And I don't make excuses anymore. I used to always make the excuses of like, oh, I can't make it, whatever. Sometimes I can't because of disability, but I don't make excuses anymore. Because when I do go out, like you just said, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Y'all are weird. It's so surreal for me.
That's very, very relatable because I am constantly surrounded by queer, neurospicy folk. Like I've managed to find my people and only stick with my people. Really, like, yeah, I have to go out into the outside world, the default world, whatever. But like every time I do, I'm usually with people who are just like me now. And that's like a very rare and special gift. I'm very grateful because when I do go out into the default world without my people, I genuinely feel like I'm an alien in another planet.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's hysterical. And then again, relating to the exhale, the coming home, I can echo that as well. Like that's absolutely my experience. It's nice to feel like you belong,
Yeah.
After being denied that belonging or changing yourself to have that belonging and not really belonging at all, even when you do that, because it's not you, it's a mask of you, it's a persona of you. Just like taking those layers off, being your authentic self and belonging, truly belonging is something beautiful that I love about being autistic and being in our community.
I think it's difficult when we leave our safest of places and our safest of neurokin, so to speak, and for many of us career-wise, we have to go out into that world and meet people that, are you sure you're autistic? Are you a person with autism? All that kind of stuff. Yeah, we go, yeah, hi, I'll just unpack that for you if I may, but always respecting where everybody else is on the journey. Yeah, because I think we've got to in some ways, but I think that the bit that I'm getting to as a baby autistic, Tanya, thank you, I love it, I really do. I'm gonna get in a t-shirt. Is that sometimes I'm celebrating it. And and this has only recently happened to me. So I'm celebrating my little neurokits that I've got. I'm celebrating putting the loops in. I'm celebrating going to a coffee shop. I went into a coffee shop several months ago. I was doing some work and I went to a coffee shop in somewhere in the southwest. And firstly, I had a really great hi-fi setup, but obviously a coffee shop, and I love both. Right, so great vinyl, great coffee. I looked at this guy and I went, "I'm autistic. Can I talk about coffee for like 10 minutes?" And he just went, "Yeah." And it was the best start to the day I've had for years. Yeah, I went, "Oh, coffee and that, and how's that?" And it was heaven. And I sat down. I think I put a post out going, "I've had one of the best starts I've ever had." I wouldn't have done that early on in my journey. So it's taken confidence and learning. But what it's taken more than anything is my neurokin around me to make me feel safe with who I am. That's been really important.
I love that you brought up confidence. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. You go first.
I love that you brought up confidence, because I can't even explain the confidence that I've gained since being in community with Neurokin and really uncovering who I am is unapologetic. Like, to be unapologetically who you are is invaluable, is priceless, like, and that with that understanding, with that internalizing and integration, the confidence that comes from that, it's endless growth. It's endless growth. I actually wrote down a note of, like, for me, autism is endless exploration, endless learning, endless excitement, endless connection, endless celebration, like you just brought up, like, to interact in the world with like this intentional, I get to be who I am wherever I go. And it's okay. It's beautiful. And I get to be excited and have happy, flabby hands and play with my stims and get overly excited when I see my friends and freak out and love on them endlessly. Like, it's such a joy to be autistic. I could cry right now. Like, it's such a joy. Yes, there are things that hold us back because the world is the way it is. But, like, when we just look at what autism is, who we are outside of those things, it's just pure joy.
And I think
there's a story. Sorry, no, you go.
I was just saying, there are things that get in the way. I'm not always celebrating. Sometimes I'm masking. Sometimes I'm surviving, and all the rest of it. But again, I go back to my Neurokin, like fresh air. My Neurokin are like the best cup of coffee ever. Do you know what I mean? Like the best cup of coffee ever, or the best memory of Mrs. Pebbles or whatever. That's it. It's just perfection. But that makes such a difference to me. So, and David,
I wanted to tell a story about my interactions with some Neurokin recently, because, like, people know I'm ADHD. I'm autistic and ADHD, and people are always like, David, you write so much. How do you do it? And I'm like, it's because if I don't get the thoughts out of my head, and there are a lot of them, my brain will explode. And I really demonstrated this because last Sunday, the Sunday just gone, I was at the Autistic Inclusive Meets Autistic Pride and Craft Fair. I gave a talk and I was signing my books, and people were coming up to me because they've seen my content. They were asking me to sign books, and they obviously didn't expect this. But what would happen is I would go into like a 10-minute monologue, and I have no idea what I talked about. Like, I have no idea what I talked about. But no one told me to stop. No one told me I was weird. No one gave me strange looks. I just looked around and I was surrounded by people who were stimming and happy. There were people spinning and flapping, and there was joy and happiness. And it was just such a beautiful thing, because when I give a 10-minute monologue to neurotypicals, they're like, will you please stop? Like, why are you even talking about this? But no one asked me that. Everyone was like, yeah, this could be important information. I am here for this. And it was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of it. We allow each other to, I don't know another word for it, but info dump. Like, I don't know another word to describe it. But when we talk about our passions and we go off on it, that's the beauty of the community, because we literally are, not only are we allowing it, but we're interested. Like, yes, tell me, I want to learn more,
Yeah. Jaesic, you had something to say.
I'll add to that, because so last night, actually, I was at my local artist collective, I guess you can call it. It's called Muck Duck Studio. It's this really beautiful, now officially a nonprofit. They just finished the process, but they've been building for the last couple years. And they had an open mixer, and this place is so safe and welcoming that it has naturally attracted artists and like people who want to become artists in whatever fashion, who are just queer, neuro-spicy folk. Some of us are disabled as well. Like, so we just naturally gravitate, we all flock together kind of thing. And last night I was at a mixer and I was, working on a painting that I've been procrastinating. And this friend of mine was like just going off on random parts of their life, talking and having a good time. And they're like, I'm sorry, I'm not medicated today. I just keep babbling. And my favorite thing to do is to affirm fellow Neurokin. by saying this is not an apology item. Why are you saying sorry? Thank you for sharing yourself. You are a gift. Like that is the belonging that that is it. That's like chef's kiss kind of shit.
And I think that's really important as well, isn't it? Because like, yeah, okay, we've talked that it's really cool being autistic or neurodivergent, but we don't get affirmed much in wider society. Like, one of the most difficult things about being autistic is the way that other people treat us, you know, and, you know, having that chance to like say to another autistic person, like, no, what you're doing is 100% valid and I'm here for it and I love you for it. Like, we don't get that all the time. And it makes life so, that's why I love the autistic community, because when I go off on a rant that lasts like an hour and a half, people are like, yeah, me too. Like, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
ooh, we got a comment.
Oh, you. Yeah.
Oh, it's Chloe in the comments. So Chloe Farahar says, sensory processing that makes our experiences qualitatively different to non-autistic people, shaping our shared experience of pragmatic language, cognition, and moving in the world. Sensory processing thing, right? Everyone talks about like sensory processing, like, you know, the overwhelming experiences. And don't get me wrong, there are some really overwhelming experiences, but actually there are some really like beautiful experiences you can have with like the autistic sensory differences. Like, I see details that other people don't even notice. I don't know if anyone else has any more to add on this.
Hmm?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really into visuals, like showing my age. I used to go to the raves and stuff, and all the lights and stuff that come out, and now even more so with the EDM and all those just visuals that come with the music. Oh, the joy, the absolute. I realize now that I definitely seek that stuff. I seek visual stimulation and see patterns in it and enjoy every second of it, you know.
I've long suspected that rave culture attracts a lot of neurodivergent people for that exact reason.
Oh yeah,
because you've got the really layered music and all the visuals, and like, I'm not surprised. Like, I used to walk around raves when I was at university and be like, I found the autistic, I found the ADHD person, there's the ADHD. Like, it was just yeah.
In my house, we call that the ND DAR, right? So
ND DAR.
You have queer DAR, gay DAR, whatever. You know, I'm old school, but it's like we can spot other people. Last time I was actually at an event with a DJ, big thing in Camden. I seem to have found the only other autistic person in the entire venue, like the entire venue. And they weren't doing so well. So I was the one that put them in a cab, you know, and my friends are like, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, but you know, they need help. So I'm just going to do it, you know? And when I look back, right, when I look back, I realize how many times and how many people I've crossed paths with. Remember, I didn't think I was autistic for a very, very long time, you know? Oh no, it's not me. Think about that. So to find them, and now thinking about it, I'm like, oh man, you know, the signs were just there the whole time. You know, blah blah signs.
The thing I like about Neurokin is that validation bit where, you know, if I kind of say, well, that smells really strong, or that was really loud, or that was really out of nowhere, or I love that pattern, or isn't it coffee? Yeah, smell this for 5 hours, that kind of jazz. There's an understanding, and that's the bit that I get stuck on the most. I think when I'm not with my Neurokin, is that it doesn't exist, does it? It doesn't exist. That how can that have hurt you? Doesn't exist. How can you smell that for ages and ages? It's not an understanding that's there because of our sensory differences, and that is something I think a lot of us feel acutely, is that the beauty. It was the difference of the validation we get from our Neurokin, but there's also that complete and utter just non-validation when we're not.
Yeah.
Jaesic, did you have something to add?
Thanks. Yeah. So speaking of like sensory processing differences and, you know, the lack of validation or having that, it's really interesting for me to witness how well our fellow like neurokin, how well we can communicate with each other and how well we understand each other. And when there isn't understanding, we actually try compassionately typically to understand, to reach understanding, to reach comprehension, to go above and beyond in our communication and find new pathways so that we do find that comprehension. And this relates to, you know, the double empathy problem. And
yes, I was about to jump in there.
Yeah. So Bobbi gets it. Like that in particular, I find to be fascinating because we get judged from the outside world in on how horrible communicators we are and how we don't read social cues and yada. Actually, we do really well with that stuff a lot of the time, if not like hypervigilantly. So like we're above average on that stuff. It's the people who don't have that heightened developed skill because their sensory processing is different. It might be duller, or it might be like less intense, or, you know, however you want to describe it. It is just different. And this isn't a judgment value or anything like that, but it's just like it's not judgment value coming from me or from our community going out, but it absolutely is on the way in from other people, you know, like that's the double empathy issue, is that we are able to communicate with each other in ways that make sense and feel good typically, just to be met by the outside world who might not share our neurology and sensory processing ways of, you know, doing that. And we get flagged as like people who are rude and because we're direct, or because we don't like reading between the lines, because we like comprehension and efficiency first, because we, you know, like it's just, it blows my mind. So I love, again, being in the neurokin, like being surrounded by my people, because it's so much easier. It is just easeful. Like you can breathe, like Bobbi was describing and Tigger was commenting on. It's like we can actually not just metaphorically breathe, but like literally breathe. Like I can use less energy to be around my people because parallel play, or we can like make noises at each other and understand what we're saying because there's body language involved and tone of voice involved. Like it's wild to me, y'all. I could talk about this for hours.
No, I'm with you as well. And the problem is we're expected to go the extra mile. That's my problem. See, my problem is, I understand there's a disconnect, and I understand that double empathy, absolutely. So, non-autistic people, why don't you try a little bit harder? Because you're expecting us to.
Yep. And we do. We always do. We are always going the extra mile. It's like to our best, like to our capacity, to our best capability. We are doing that, I think, on the whole, I would say. And I don't like generalizing, but I don't know one person who is autistic, ADHD. Like I don't know one person who doesn't try their hardest to really go above and beyond to get that comprehension and have compassion present in any interaction. So it's wild.
And then what people don't see is that the ableist bit around, none of that thing, none of those here, thank you very much, and that kind of jazz. But also they don't see the price we pay. We try so hard. We do so much hard work to fit in. We are brilliant at reading the minutest sometimes of expressions and pupil dilations, to read what's going on, to read the environment, to use all our scripts and so on and so forth. And yet then people don't realize it will collapse at some point with overload and overwhelm. And because they didn't see it, it doesn't exist, does it?
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Oh, that doesn't exist. Oh, it's not that bad, really, is it? And you sit there thinking, yeah, it really is. And that's why neurokin is important. They go, oh, you're all right with that? Yeah, I'm fine. Whereas you do it in some settings with, your typical example, and it's like, it wasn't that bad, surely. Or you just sit there thinking, yeah, I'm devastated by that noise in the background. And it's so yeah, they don't often see the price we pay because we do so much hard work.
Absolutely.
One I have to highlight here, I have to highlight the sensory experience that used to drive me up the wall. And it was when I was doing written exams at school, and you would have a clock ticking in a silent room. How are you supposed to concentrate on anything with that noise? But if you say to them, I can't concentrate because of that clock ticking, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? No one can hear it. It's like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Actually, I can. And the lights are screaming at me. So can I do what you do, please?
And I'm old enough where they were all fluorescent, and I was constantly. I'm like, they're blinking. People are like, but they're not. I'm like, but they are.
I'm old enough on that one as well.
God, I hate it. I hate it. So here's something that I actually haven't checked the science on, but I believe it. So I'll just, preface this disclaimer. I was watching, I think it was on a reel or something on Facebook, where this person was talking about how autistic, ADHD brains don't lose. So basically, as people age, from childhood to adulthood, our brains prune out connections. Yes. To like consolidate and be more efficient, technically, I guess. But neurodivergent brains like ours don't actually go through that process. We hold on to all of these extra millions, billions of connections. And that's part of the reason why our sensory processing is what it is, and why we have all these rapid thoughts that connect all over the place, and and we see patterns, and we can do really good analysis, and all these things. And of course, this isn't like, I don't want to speak for every autistic, ADHD person. But like on the whole, I'm assuming this is true, that is how our brains are structured. That's why they're different.
It's a big theory. When I did my post-grad, it was one of the theories that was put out there, and there is a bit of science to kind of back it. Problem is, they're still looking at it from a neurotypical lens, right? So, the researchers and all of that are looking at, so it's still and it's hard to read because it's very, very medical based when you actually do read the research behind that. I don't know if an autistic researchers jumped in on that. It would be interesting to hear if one has or one does, because it's something that is, I wouldn't say it's an accepted theory as in factual, but it's up there. It's kind of up there with the whole gene thing of, autism being the construct. But we are created by mutations. Well, mutations is why my eyes are brown. Mutations is why my skin is white. It's kind of gray and a bit wibbly wobbly because we have so many NT researchers researching us.
Right. Yep.
I'm going to say only
theory out there.
Only neurotypical researchers could suggest that we have more brain and then say it's a bad thing.
I knew you were going to do that. That is so spot on.
It's so spot on. That is so spot on, because it's exactly what's happening.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. It's way too accurate.
True.
Oh my God. It reminds me of a thing I saw about Barbie. I think there was an article that someone wrote, and the title had something to do with like Barbie is about to meet or break the record at this number of whatever at the brain, sorry.
Box office?
Box office. And then talking about how Oppenheimer, whatever the heck it's called, was like projected to meet half that much, which is pretty impressive too. Like trying to like
compare the two. Really?
Y'all, you can just say that Barbie's a good movie and people are loving it and leave it at that. Like, you don't have to twist things and try to make something else, seem just as good by making the other thing bad. Like, it doesn't, God, the mental gymnastics. This is what I'm getting at. Not exactly the content, but like the mental gymnastics that neurotypicals in this context have and go through and put themselves through to justify diversity. Like, or like denounce diversity, rather. That's
that week that Barbenheimer was trending. Like on Twitter, everyone was going on about doing the Barbenheimer. I was like, this is a really weird week. Like, I don't really know what's going on here, but I gather people are watching Barbie and Oppenheimer together, and are they similar?
One
Because
after
if
the
so, I have
other.
questions.
They're hitting one and then they're hitting the other.
Yeah. I just wondered if, like,
Absolutely.
you know, Barbie happened to, I don't know, have a PhD in nuclear physics in this film or something. Like,
oh Lord. Honestly, Barbie could be like the ADHD champion, right? Of having all the hobbies and careers.
so we've
Sorry,
we've
okay.
got a comment here.
We got a
Nick
comment.
Wells says, but what you all say is actually interesting. I'm interested in everything an autistic person has to say because it pertains to my own experience. It's not just a bunch of gossip, drivel, complaining. Yeah, exactly. Like, the information we talk about is always relevant. It might take like an hour longer for us to communicate it fully, but that's only because we give you every detail.
Yeah, yeah. But it's always
This is something I say to my.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I say to my friends all the time, like, one of the bonuses of being friends to me is that every conversation comes with a free lecture. Like,
I love that. I love that so much. I might steal it. Okay, you stole the barely human bit, and I'm gonna steal that bit with the lecture. We traded phrases.
yeah.
Do you know what I also love? This group and the autistic community is probably the only community, that allows me to speak my special interest, which is autism. You know, outside I get told, you talking about it so much, you know, your life is not surrounded by it. I'm like, and now finally I'm like, well, actually, hello, it is.
Actually,
I'm going to talk about it. It's what it is.
Do you ever feel though, like, you know, being autistic with a special interest in autism is kind of like the philosophical equivalent of breaking the fourth wall on television? Like,
there's a reason. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm kind of delving into my own brain lately because my child was diagnosed at 4. At 4, so there was a chance right there for them to go, actually, Bob's, you know, we're thinking. No, did a degree, worked for 17 years and with autistic children and their families, and not one time people love Damien, Milton, Bob, you're autistic. I'm like, nah. He's like, no, seriously, you know, Tanya, Bob, ADHD is shocking to you, you know, like everybody else. And that's why I'm saying, like, it definitely was a mask that was put on so unconsciously and so tight that there was no way, even though it was in front of my face, that I saw it. You know, so it's
the same here. We've had that similar career pathway in history, and you know, decades of working with awesomely brilliant individuals in loads of different places, and people would say, and when I did finally go, but guess what? I know. People were going, yeah, we've known you for 2 decades, Tigger. We didn't, you know, we thought you did. We did, and I'm going, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, and then the roots of imposter syndrome come back again, and so forth, don't they? But no, it's so many people over the years have said to me, "Are you? Do you think?" And I've gone, "No." And my favourite response used to be, "I'm just Tigger." I'm just Tigger.
Yeah.
And people would go, "Right, okay."
Yeah.
Was it? They say the wonderful thing about Tigger.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, Tigger, they must say to you, is that your real name? They must. Like, we know it is, but you must get it sometimes. People go, oh, is that your real name?
Yeah, and I changed it legally 22 years ago, I think. So it's on the passport and everything. So it is a legal name. It was a reinvention. It was a refinding of identity and so on. But I did change it legally. But no, it's that. Yeah, so I often get the name questioned, or I get Tiger or Trigger. Yeah, right, which I get a lot, I must confess. I actually know it's not.
I did call you Trigger Pritchard the other day.
Did you? I know. I was heard.
Yeah, remember in the middle of a live podcast recording, I went, and here with me is Trigger Pritchard.
Oops.
But it shows you that so many people around us that have known us over the decades, over the years, have gone. And we, because of that pressure of masking, that pressure of who we've been brought up alongside, so to speak, societal wise and so on, but they're going, oh, no. And like I said, my response would be, I'm just Tigger. Hiding from it for so many decades, perhaps. Interesting to explore at some point, I will, I'm sure. But now, no, completely and utterly. Need to get the t-shirt, maybe one like yours, yeah? Awesomely autistic Tigger, yeah?
I mean, shout out to Karen Rose, because it was a long chat, and it was chats about masking and unconscious masking specifically that made me go, oh, wow, okay. Yeah, now I see it, you know. So and shout out for the time and the patience, because it changed everything for me.
Yeah, I did his program online, I forget what it's called. As a very early baby autistic. As a very baby autistic, I did that. So I would, it's brilliant. In fact, I might do it again as I've grown a bit more, but I was so quiet during most of it. I was just sitting there soaking it in and going, oh, and the realization. No, that is a brilliant set of sessions. And
I'm about to read Kieran's new book.
Oh, lush.
Wait, what is it?
I'm rereading it. I read it so fast the first time because
I'm rereading
it. Yeah. Brilliant.
It's very
absolutely.
I've heard good things. Unfortunately, I have a reading list that's like 3 miles long, but like, it's. You do 2 or 3 books at the same time. So actually, I'm reading about 10 books at the same time at the moment, because I can't concentrate on any one singular book. The problem is I forget what I've read and where, because I'm not organized enough to keep notes.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's literally a pile of books on my bed behind me, and I'm reading all of them.
I feel you. I struggle with. There's a part of me which hates it, but now that I'm working in the field that I am, I have to multiply read several books at the same time. And I've found the best that I can do for myself is annotate and then take time outside of reading to summarize in a Google Doc my annotations and put in key parts of the book with page numbers and make sure that I have organized thoughts that I can Control F search later. Otherwise the information is just frigging gone. Like I don't know. I can't retain much anymore, unfortunately.
Audible for me as well. That really works sometimes. Like it really, and sometimes when especially if I really want to get into the book, I will have the book open and I will be going along as it's being read to me. You know, like
that's great.
Because it works, you know?
Yeah. We gotta strategize, you know, do what we gotta do. I would love to revisit the topic of not knowing we're autistic when others do, because now I'm in a position where like Bobbi mentioned earlier about our ND, DAR, whatever, like I am constantly bombarded with my friends, even with strangers who are absolutely autistic.
Yep.
Or at least ADHD, if not ADHD, or just on, and I'm just like, I can't say anything. All I can do is say, yeah, in my relation, like in my autistic experience, or in just my experience, and hope that they understand that because I know, like I'm very vocal about me being autistic or ADHD, that they can relate through that. But I can't point blank say, this is autism. This is 80, like, and it drives me nuts. And I'm at a point too in this field and like watching more neurodivergent research and conversation happen every day, that I really truly believe ADHD is just on the spectrum of autism. Like we are all, it's all the same thing. There's so many overlapping, like we have it's kind of like the gender spectrum in a way where it could be linear, but it's also not. We have data points all over the place, and it's more in like quadrants of like sensory seeking, sensory avoidant, text, you know, like things that we can handle and can't handle, the way that our brains are monotropic or not. And seeing how those points can even move. Like my gender, I'm gender fluid. I don't even like that term. I experience gender in some ways, in some ways not. It depends on the day. I don't know. But like those data points can move depending on any factor, your sleep, your food intake, your sensory processing the day before, the stimulation that you were around that day. Like it drives me nuts that we have to categorize everything because it's letting so many people fall outside of identity that they could be, identifying with, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
We had this conversation on a live stream on your page, Jaesic.
We did, didn't we?
We were talking about the fact that like everyone views identity in that as this fixed point on a map, but it's not. It's like an ever moving fluid thing, we don't have to be the same thing forever. And in fact, if we were, we probably wouldn't be alive.
Right.
Like, but like, what you're saying about like other people knowing you're autistic when you try and tell them you're autistic. Like, I remember the day I sat my best friend down after I've been diagnosed, and I was like, look, man, I'm autistic. He was like, David, not only did I know that, but you knew that as well. And I was like, yeah, but he was like, no, but David, we already knew this. He was like, you were just as autistic before the diagnosis as you are now. And that's fundamentally the moment that made me realize that self-diagnosis is just as valid as formal.
Yes.
Because I didn't magically become autistic when they gave me a piece of paper.
Right.
It's not like I had to get a license.
Right.
It's not like I'm going to be charged with autistic without a license or anything. Like.
I think it's interesting because I obviously self-identify as awesome neurodivergent, but people always say to me, "Oh, don't you think you should?" And I don't know, because at the moment I don't want to, but there might come a time where I need to. And I think Bobbi mentioned earlier on in our pre-chat about that, a bit about imposter syndrome. There are times when the darkest hours of the day and the night, boom, it bites, and you kind of lie there going, "Am I? What's going on? Am I really?" Hence my dips in and out of Aucademy over the months and so on. So I've been thinking, I shouldn't be doing this because I'm not, or I'm not worthy, or this kind of stuff. I'm not properly autistic, whatever that means. And so for some of us, I think that paper is a degree of validation. But then I personally, for me, I have to say, I'm with my neurokin, and they look at you and they go, "Come on, Tigger," and you just think, "Yeah, I am, aren't I?" And do you know what I mean? It's that kind of. So at the moment, I'm getting my bits of paper from my neurokin, but one day I might need that bit of paper for another part of my journey, and I'll explore that when I come to it.
Mm-hmm. And
but I would add the addendum.
Yeah.
Sorry, mine's quick. I would add the addendum that you can have a formal diagnosis. It doesn't necessarily make the imposter syndrome go away, because like I've been literally validated in every which way from Sunday in the fact that I am autistic, and I still sit there going, "Am I really autistic?" Like.
Yeah,
I am. Like, definitely. Like, there's no denying it. But my brain still goes like, yeah, maybe not. Maybe you're just like really good at masking your neurotypicality.
It's a journey.
Oh, masking that's on point. No, but I was gonna add like when I brought up like not the whole identity piece for other people and wanting to share my experience and hope that they can identify themselves through my experience because I want to relate to my neurokin. Like almost entirely my friend group entirely are some flavor of neurospicy. And a lot of them, not a lot of them, many of them though, don't see the full breadth of how neurospicy they might be. And it's interesting because I think I'm just like venting a little bit about my experience because I maybe am seeking validation through you all right now. I don't know. But like not being able to share in the neurospiciness to the degree that I would like to with these people because I don't want to diagnose them or accuse them or like put them in a position where they're forced to reckon with their identity because they know themselves best. you know, like I don't want to be that person that forces this narrative on them, even if I believe it to be true, because we do relate in such a way that is, you know, that resonates with my autistic or ADHD experience. And it's just this whole thing. Bobbi, go ahead.
No, just going to say in reference to sort of my friends. So like I keep saying I'm old. I'm actually old. But I look back and most of my friends are ND as well. And I kind of knew it before they knew it. I was really good at picking people before I can pick myself. Hello. And I still was authentic with them in the fact that in my brain they were, so it didn't matter if they were diagnosed or not. Does that make sense? Like I still related to them as if they were, because that was the connection that I felt. So it almost didn't matter. And a couple of them afterwards have, you know, sort of acknowledged it, and maybe a couple have even been diagnosed. I don't know. But it never really kind of mattered, because we've been friends for a while. When you have a group of friends for you know, over like a decade or so, right? You grow with them anyway, and they kind of find some things out about themselves. And when you see that, that's beautiful. Like that's just absolutely beautiful when that spark happens in a friend. But I think personally, communicating and interacting with them your authentic self way anyway, right? Doesn't matter if they're diagnosed, doesn't matter if they know it, right? It's something that could come possibly in the future. And you're still, because I look at it like this, okay? Like I'm going to digress for half a second. I deal with a lot of people in schools, right? I deal with a lot of staff in schools. And I constantly am saying to them, whatever you do for the autistic child benefits everybody in the room. Like every child will benefit from whatever you do for the autistic child. So getting them to relate to everybody in the sort of same way from the eyes of that autistic child, right? So I kind of did that with my friends anyway. I knew a couple of them were definitely autistic, and like I said, eventually later said, yeah, self-identified. So I interacted with them as if they were anyway. Does that make sense at all, what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do, right? Like I do, because I can't help but be who I am and connect with them the way that we connect. It's just, I think what hangs me up sometimes and makes me a little sad or conflicted, because there are moments in relating to each other that I want to label something as an autistic experience, and I don't know if I should or can, because if I do that and they relate and they're already stating how they relate to me and I call it that and they're like, well, I'm not autistic, like that kind of, like that's the kind of box that I don't want to put people in.
Yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying. I get exactly what you're saying. And that's tough.
It's hard. It's hard. I have to work harder sometimes navigating my very close relationships, or even not that close relationships, but like I do have to be conscious of my choices when I'm relating about whichever part of my journey, because I don't want to, until they're ready to question it themselves and they bring it up themselves.
And it's the word too, right? Basic, it's the word. You don't know how people are going to react to that word, right?
Even if
where they are on the journey, you know, it's that thing, you don't know what, you know, either it's really bad or it's okay, or they look at us as friends and go, you're cool. You know what I mean? So it's that journey bit, which is typical for so many, isn't it? Yeah, we are cool.
Exactly. So I just, thank you all for holding space for that, because it's just been on my mind and in frequent relationships lately. Like it just keeps coming up, and I have been feeling a little burdened by the weight of that effort. Because I want to just be in the spiciness, you know.
You're meeting people at different points in their life.
Right.
They're not necessarily ready for it. You don't know how they're going to act to the word, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's tough, man. That's not easy. Definitely had to navigate that myself.
Yeah.
We're going to say as well, there's some topics we've got already from tonight, haven't we?
Have you what?
Are you making a list of the top? There's some great topics and lives just from what we're talking about tonight. To take certain bits out and extrapolate upon them further would be brilliant. Lush, even.
Yeah, but certainly, you know, I mean, I find that like it is frustrating when you do want to share in that neurospiciness, as you put it, but you just don't know if people are ready to hear it, and you're like, you know, leaning into the spiciness kind of metaphor. It's like, you know, the difference between someone eating korma their whole life and then suddenly you serve them a vindaloo. You know, like they've got to build up to it gradually, because if you jump straight from korma to vindaloo, you're going to really regret it.
That is absolutely lush. That is awesome, man. That image is now planted in my brain. Next interactions, it's there. I'm going, oh, it's not vindaloo time. Pull back a bit, yeah?
No, you know, at best it's, you know, lambuna, you know, like.
Okay, can I out myself as the one American who lives in America? What are these words that you're uttering from your mouth?
Oh, different Indian dishes, different. So vindaloo's got is kind of a curry, but it's got a little bit more of a kick to it, and it's beautiful.
Ooh.
Whereas a korma is a kind of a creamy, buttery chicken type situation.
Okay.
So you've got non-spice versus kicky in the butt.
Gotcha. Okay,
And
sounds delicious.
on the spectrum of neurospiciness, the four of us here would count as like a fal, which is like the spiciest curry in the world.
Accurate. Oh, I love it.
That is superb. That is please write that down, David. Do one of your posts with that. I beg of you. Put it on one of your Canva bits. I beg of you. That is gorgeous. That is absolutely lush.
We've got two
comments,
more comments. Yeah. So Callum Brazzo says, being autistic to me means authentically wired in a way that when empowered is truly beautiful, unique, and underlined by differences that are only made problematic by problematic environments. Yes, like I'm here for that social model stuff, you know?
Yeah, the social model isn't perfect, but my goodness, is it better than the medical? Let's just be realistic about that, you know? Nothing's going to be perfect, you know? And the social model is not saying that in an ideal world, I wouldn't be disabled, because in an ideal world, I still actually would be in some ways. You know what I mean? Like there's still situations and stuff that are challenging regardless, but my goodness, social model, please tell me, you know, I'm autistic. I'm not with autism. I'm not a burden. I'm not a deficit. And I'm certainly not a disorder.
And Denisha Roberts says, it means being awesome despite not getting it, laugh out loud. It means being outside the system and challenging it to enrich as many other people's lives as I can with my awesomeness. Yes.
I've yet to meet an autistic person who's not a rebel in some ways. Like literally, like even if you think you're the most conservative, I see that little rebel in you. I definitely say it.
Yeah, I think it's like fundamentally wired into us, isn't it? It's to push back against it. But yeah, you know, to remind everyone, as it says at the bottom, that Aucademy has various closed Facebook groups. Aucademy Arts, Animals, Social, Memes, the LGBTQIA+, the Caregivers, the Info Dump Vaults. Outside of Aucademy, I've got a Discord channel you can join if you like Discord. It's full of people. We just talk nonsense most of the time, but it's cool. But final thoughts. Any final thoughts on what being autistic is to us, Jaesic?
I got one final thought because someone brought up pushback, and it reminded me of my experience last night at the Mixer. We brought up the heightened sense of justice that autistics have. So I will also relate my being autistic to me means also always seeking justice and equity. That's like ingrained in me. I'm literally making a career out of it because I can't get away from it. It consumes me. So like this is definitely one of like that's my final autism is for me pursuing equity always. And I
got to tag on that because my hyper empathy is the same. Okay. Yes. So, you know, the need to take care of animals, the need to take care of my neurokin, the need to take care of other people, the need for justice and the kickback and the instant rage I feel because my effective is immediate. When I see an injustice, you know, it's gotten me in trouble. Well, thankfully I can get myself out of it, but you know, I'm going to be the first person to jump in there. I can't help it. I cannot not say something. I have to say something, and I will always say something. You know, so I guess I used to be called aggressive. I kind of think it's assertive, and it means that I actually care about people. You know, that's kind of my
aggressive is the medical model assertive.
Aggressive compassion. I love that.
Tigger, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, the bit about, I mean, I find myself enraged at like 2:30 in the morning, and I'll send an email to like a member of parliament in Britain going, "Oh, this isn't right. You should be doing that." And I'm lying there awake, and I'm going to send the email. I'm going to do that. So that bit about justice, yeah, no, honestly, BBC, you shouldn't be doing this to your program. I'm just off. MPs, you shouldn't be doing, you know, people locally. I'm like, oh, especially when it's at the core. I think that I love the justice bit, but when I'm getting more and more as I become a toddler autistic. Can I use that one a bit? Can I? As I become a toddler autistic, is that the next stage for me? Is the standing up for those of my neurokin that can't? Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's becoming really important to me. I want to walk down the high street with your t-shirt on, or one of ours from the podcast. Yeah, especially interested. I'm autistic. I want to make that statement because I know at this moment in time I have a voice that I hope can counter most discussions and arguments and questions and so on. So that's something that's becoming really important to me, to be able to stand up and go, "Hi, you know, like I said, I'm into this coffee shop. Just went, I'm autistic. Can I please talk about how you do your coffee?" And he was great, absolutely great, which was awesome. Yeah. So yeah, passion.
I guess my final thought would be that, you know, society thought that by trying to cram my round autistic peg into a neurotypical square hole, they would eventually get me to fit. But all they did was make me spiky. So now I'm uncomfortable for everyone.
Definitely. Spikiness and curries. That's not bad for one evening, is it, really?
Yeah. Anyway, favorite stim. Tigger, what's your favorite stim at the moment?
At the moment, it's the one which I've hidden for so long. And I've been doing it here tonight because I'm safe and I'm secure and I'm comfortable and I'm happy. And it's this one. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it on screen. And please, it is a tongue movement. Bite my tongue. All right?
I used to do that all the time.
Yeah, I'm still. This is the baby one. I'm going to do a toddler one next time. Yeah. And I don't know what it is at the moment, but I used to be on my own. And then I'd think, well, I can't do that in public because people will look, right? And even though I've still got all my usual stuff and blue tack and so on, that one's my absolute favorite. And I find when I'm really happy and relaxed, I find myself chomping away on my tongue, which is really bad for my tongue, maybe, but I love it.
I love it. I love that. I'll go.
Jaesic, what's your favorite stim?
I have Alexander Hamilpig here. So classic little guy. This thing, it's soft, it's squishy, but not like the squish that's too easy to squish. It's like that memory foam, like you really gotta push in. So it activates my upper like biceps and everything. Like it's great. And I can like do this twirly thing. It has so many stims in one. I love this guy. He's my favorite. Otherwise, I actually have witnessed myself starting to do head shakes when I'm really, really pleased. Like when something is just overwashing me and like in joy or whatever, or I like hear something that is just too good. I just gotta like shake it out. Which I attribute to my friend Clove, who is also neurokin, like one of my closest humans. We've hosted Clove, I think, once. Who is really embracing their stims, and seeing them embrace theirs has inspired me to embrace more of mine. And that one feels really good. So I'm grateful to Clove for paving that path for me. So.
Right on. Right. We've seen all of mine tonight. So like I I flap when I'm excited. I can't help but go like this.
Same.
I have this, and he's always something soft, always around my mouth. It's from when I was a kid. I don't understand. He flips back and forth. I like this side better. So he's always kind of like by my mouth. And at the same time, I've been playing with a pen. I flip it around. So I've got this by my mouth, playing with a pen, shaking, rocking back and forth. Like, it's just that I'm letting them come. Like, I'm not suppressing anything anymore. I can't be bothered. Just let them come out. Enjoy every second of it. This is Bobbi. Hi.
We love.
Yeah, and for me, I've literally been rocking in this chair the entire time. Like, I have not stopped moving once.
Nice.
But yeah, it's been such a good live stream to start.
Before we go, please forgive me for interrupting. Oh, awesome one. Because on the whenever we do something, David's my boss. I've always said that to everybody. Yeah, David's in charge of me. Otherwise, I'm off on tangents and never coming back here. I'd like to give a little shout out to Bobbi and Ben for their shortlists for their shortlist for New Diversity Awards. I think we should.
Yeah, so
Yes!
right now.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And for Ben as well, who's
for Ben.
So congratulations to both of you. Sorry about that, Ben. Right, sorry. Right,
yeah, but people can't see this, but in the private chat in the studio, Ben's just put like the sideways eye.
Classic. Oh, that's wonderful. Congrats to both of you.
Huge congratulations.
Thank you for your work. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's probably about time to wrap it up. So it's been a really good one. As we said, first Wednesday of each month, Aucademy live streams are back. It's not as frequent, but hopefully this will make it more sustainable, because we're all, like Vindaloo level spicy, so we do burn out from times.
Yeah, we do.
So, keep tuned, keep watching the social media, and there will be more lives coming up. So don't forget. Thank you so much. Time for the awkward wave, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.